What if you could watch millions of years of evolution just completely fast-forwarded? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But for a brief moment in time, one scientist was convinced the answer was yes, and he believed the entire epic story was hidden inside a developing embryo. Okay, let's dive into this. It's a fascinating and really fiercely debated idea.
I mean, seriously, think about that question. How could you possibly take the vast, sprawling tree of life with all its branches and weird twists and turns and compress it all into the short 9-month journey from a single cell to a baby? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But one biologist, he was absolutely convinced it was fact.
All right, so let's set the scene. The year is 1866. The scientific world is still trying to wrap its head around Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Evolution is the hot topic, and into this whirlwind comes a brilliant, really ambitious German scientist named Ernst Haeckel, and he is about to drop a theory that is an absolute bombshell.
Haeckel coined this very famous phrase, but let's be honest, it's a bit of a mouthful. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Don't worry, it's actually way simpler than it sounds. Ontogeny is just the life story of one individual organism, from embryo to adult. And phylogeny, that's just the evolutionary history of the entire species.
So what Haeckel was claiming is that ontogeny recapitulates or replays phylogeny. He argued that as a human embryo develops, it doesn't just grow, it literally passes through stages that look like the adult forms of its ancient ancestors. A fish stage, then a reptile stage, and so on. Basically, a biological time machine.
So what was his proof for this incredible claim? Well, Haeckel pointed to evidence that, at first glance, seemed pretty undeniable. He focused on some really striking similarities you can see in early development.
If you look at an early human embryo, you'll see these strange little arches and grooves in the neck area. To Haeckel, these weren't just developmental quirks, no way. He said these were pharyngeal slits, the very same structures that in fish actually become gills. This was his smoking gun.
His logic was pretty direct. For a brief time, the human embryo was literally reliving its fish stage. And it wasn't just that it was similar to a fish. In his view, it was a direct replay of the adult form of an ancient fish-like ancestor, connecting us right back through the family tree.
Now, Haeckel didn't just stop at the observation, and this is what made his idea so powerful. He actually proposed a clear mechanism for how this evolutionary replay could happen. He built a whole system based on 3 core assumptions.
Okay, let's break this down. First is correspondence. The human embryo's fish stage matches an adult fish ancestor. Got it? Second, addition. Evolution works by just tacking on new features at the very end of development. So to get from a reptile to a mammal, you just add the mammal features onto the end. And third, truncation. Now, you might be thinking, wouldn't that make pregnancies get longer and longer? Haeckel said no, because the earlier ancestral stages get condensed and sped up to make room.
And this is why so many scientists were totally electrified by his work. He wasn't just saying, hey, these things look kind of similar. He was offering a testable physical process. He basically gave researchers a roadmap to trace evolution just by watching an embryo grow. It was a revolutionary idea. But was it right?
As other scientists started to really scrutinize this so-called biogenetic law, some major problems began to appear. And the elegant simplicity of the whole theory, well, it started to fall apart under closer inspection.
Okay, here's the absolute heart of the problem, the biggest rejection of his theory. It all comes down to a really critical distinction. Haeckel's claim was that a human embryo looks like an adult fish, but the reality is that a human embryo stage looks like a fish embryo. It's a huge difference. We share a common developmental starting point, but we do not replay their adult forms.
And the critiques just kept piling on. From a natural selection standpoint, why would an embryo waste precious time and energy perfectly recreating an adult stage from its past? It's just incredibly inefficient. What the similarities really show are shared ancestry and common genetic toolkits, not a full-on movie replay. And of course, the final nail in the coffin was the arrival of modern genetics, which gave us a much, much better way to explain how development actually works.
So Haeckel's biogenetic law was wrong. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. Because even in being wrong, Haeckel stumbled upon something so profoundly important that it changed biology forever.
I love this way of putting it.
because it just captures the situation perfectly. The strict idea of an evolutionary replay, the law, yeah, that's dead. It was disproven. But the core insight that studying embryos could reveal deep truths about evolution, that was an absolute stroke of genius.
This really gets to the crucial point we understand today. An embryo isn't a movie replaying the past, but it is an incredible historical document. Haeckel was wrong about the replay, but he was absolutely right about the record. Its development contains a record of its evolutionary journey, written in the language of shared genes and developmental pathways. And that is Haeckel's true legacy. The fact that a human embryo, a chick embryo, a fish embryo, that they all look so strikingly similar in their early stages, that is still one of the most beautiful and powerful pieces of evidence we have for a common ancestor. He asked the right question, even if he got the final answer wrong.
Haeckel's story is just such a great reminder that our own bodies are like living museums of natural history. And it leaves you wondering, if our embryonic development holds all these clues to our deep past, what other secrets are just waiting to be discovered, coded right into our own DNA?